Yeah, this is Reverend Harris. We're in Vallejo, California again, talking to a brother here who has lost a loved one. And how you doing today?
I'm doing fine. As far as that goes, I'm still in shock over this whole thing, but I'm trying to deal with it.
So what took place? I was listening to you talk about a death that happened here in Vallejo. Can you kind of tell us about what happened?
Yeah, it was my son who had a warrant for his arrest and for failure to appear to a jurisdictional type hearing or a visit with his probation officer, one or the other. What it ended up becoming was daily visits by the sheriff's department and daily conversations with them and being asked questions about his whereabouts and whatnot. And my child was scared of him, of the sheriffs, because of all the sheriffs and the police, because of all the incidences of violence that he had heard from other kids in the neighborhood and other people and people who had been to prison and people who had been to county jail and things like this. So he wasn't about to try to he was scared, and so he was running from them, and he had places to go, and I didn't know where he was at. He wouldn't let me know where he was at, because he knew if I knew where he was, I'd go over there and try to get him, But at any rate, that escalated into me and him having dissonance, because of the fact that I kept telling him, you need to turn yourself in to them, because I don't like the fact that they come through the house every day, with their tasers pulled out and stuff looking for you and things like that. And on several occasions, they came by the house while he was in the house and didn't search it well enough to find him. And I didn't know he was in the house. And on one occasion, they actually had one of the bailiffs, Sheriff's Department bailiffs from Solano County, come up to the door. And I said, you want to come in and look for my son? Is that what you're here for? And he said, no, I'm just here to tell you that if he ran from us last night, if he runs from us again, we're gonna beat him up.
So wait a minute. So you saying that the police had actually verbally told you?
He was in my kitchen cooking some potatoes, and I asked him. I told him if he'd ever come in the house and the cops came here looking for him, I was going to tell him come on in and they could look, and hopefully they would find him. But this officer came alone and with no backup to give me some words of advice, basically that if he runs from us again, we're gonna beat his ass. But if he runs from Vallejo police, there's no telling what can happen to him. Now I didn't take that very seriously, because who knows who can tell what can happen to him means. I mean, I didn't take it. If they would have told me that they'll shoot him on sight, they'll corral him like the U.S. Army corrals some enemy and take him out, I would have done all I could. But on one occasion, I did give them his phone number and the place where he was residing, the name of the person who was in the record of where they could look and find him, so that they wouldn't have to keep bugging me about how I was hiding them and doing all this other things that I wasn't doing. I was actually cooperating with them in their efforts to catch him, and you could see in the YouTube video of the Vallejo police shootings on YouTube in June 30th, my cooperation with them and everything else for what he had done, which was just driving a vehicle that was a stolen vehicle that he didn't even steal. He was just driving without the owner's permission, basically, because it was handed down to him from some other people. But they corralled him, and they treated him like he was some type of a terrorist or a person who had bombs strapped on him and was standing inside of a school, or something like that. They didn't give him a chance to surrender. He begged them. He said, don't shoot, don't shoot. He was unarmed, and he was a better criminal, you might say, or a better sense than to be standing there with a BB gun or some kind of a cap and ball pistol to try to shoot the Vallejo Police Department. He was too smart to do something stupid like that. Anybody can tell you that. So I mean, it's just the same with all the rest of the stories that they tell. There's always somebody reaching, or there's always somebody picking something up off the ground, or doing some type of evasive maneuver that puts them on alert to try to kill them because they fear for their life. Well, I don't believe it, and it's not true. And my kid was smarter than that,
So, and I'm just asking, what nationality were your son?
My son was a Dutch, English, and Irish, and a little Native American.
So he wasn't an African American.
No.
Okay. So it clearly shows that this is being done abroad by different ethnics, by race. And
I believe that they may have just signaled him out so that they could throw him in the mix, so that they couldn't be targeted as being all blacks.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying?
see.
They could have used him because they didn't like him in the first place, but they had to do something to keep it from being a whole black salad. So, you know what I'm saying? They would throw something in there so that they couldn't throw the presidential card saying whites against blacks. They could kill a white and they'd throw him in there. Now it comes to the thing with Romero. On his situation, Jared had been shot 17 times. None of the other Vallejo killings had been treated like that.
Okay, wait. Now, when you say 17 times, we'll make sure our listening audience really interpret what you're saying. You saying that your son was shot 17 times or was shot at 17?
He was shot at or at the clip of a gun, clip of the semi-automatic or the automatic rifle that they was using on him. Well, I put it this way: I talked to the coroner, and when I called and I asked him, I said to a person, "Are you the coroner?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, he told me that." I said, "Are you directly related to Jared Hughes' body in any way?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm going to be doing some work on it." And I said, "Well, what does it look like in your estimation? Is it very bad?" He said, "There's so many bullet." I said, "How many shots did he receive?" He said, "There's so many bullet holes in him, I can't count them."
So you called the coroner and asked the coroner to give you some information about
because they gave the body to the wrong person. They tried to give it to someone so they could quickly cremate it, and I ended up having to throw spokes in that wheel. Or I had to throw a rod or a stick in that wheel to get that thing stopped so that I could have it buried.
Okay, so let's back up. So you're saying that the coroner was trying to give the body to a mortuary so that they could cremate the body.
The mother stepped in and had no say so about the body.
No say so. Okay.
She was all her parental rights were taken away by the CPS in California.
Okay.
And so she stepped in, or they contacted her, one or the other, so that they could give the body to her so it could be quickly disposed of. And in order for me to see it or anything, I had to hurry up and throw spokes in that, put another down payment on the funeral home, give them back their money so I could take over. And I had to show them proof that I was the legitimate, legitimate custody of the child so that I could do this.
So the coroner told you there were so many bullets that he couldn't even count how many bullets.
He said there's so many bullet holes in it, he can't even count them all.
Did he say where the bullet holes were at? Was it in the body,
He didn't say that much, very much, but I can tell you that from what I've seen of his body, it looked like his head and his legs and his head and his limbs seemed to have been separated.
His head?
And his feet were shot off, and one of his arms was definitely blown away because it was the distance from your collarbone from one side of your neck to the shoulder is, usually a small distance. Well, in his casket, I took pictures of him, and it looks like this thing here went all the way 3 times the distance. His body was all morphed out and destroyed, and his head was shot up about 3 or 4 times with an automatic rifle. And he didn't look like the same person. He didn't look at all like the same person.
So he was shot in the shoulder, and you said he was shot in the head?
Yeah, he was shot in the head 3 times.
Shot in the head 3 times.
I took his baseball cap and rubbed the makeup away that they had put on to cover up all the wounds, and I started discovering all these bullet holes in his head on one side that he was looking up at. So he had 3 identifiable. I have evidence of 3 identifiable shots to the head, and that's the only thing that was visible from the mortuary. I mean, the funeral home was his head and his hands. That was it. The rest of his body was attached and covered with plastic, so that you couldn't get it apart. It was like stapled to his skin, so that you couldn't take nothing down and look at anything. And they also did a autopsy on him, and they didn't need to do that because they already knew the reason for his death. Why should they go in and do a bunch of take all his organs out and do all that other stuff,
And when did this happen?
This happened June 30th of this year. June 30th, 2012.
So they executed your son, it sounds like, shot him 3 times in the head, bullet holes, and...
No, more than 3 times. That's all I could detect was 3.
All you could detect was 3 in the head.
I couldn't look at the back of his head.
His shoulder was detached. Looked like his body
His whole body looked like it was all mangled and reattached to everything. It didn't look normal, and he didn't have no feet, and it was horrible.
Okay, that's the part where you say he didn't have no feet. Now, can you, when you say no feet, what do you mean?
I don't think he had any feet. I think his feet was shot off, and he wasn't even present. One of the kids that took pictures of it said that they couldn't see his feet.
Okay.
So, you know, an automatic rifle like that, when you get shot with one of those AR-15s or something, it blows, it'll take your shoulder completely off your body. You know what I mean? And as far as the crime scene, I was there the night after the crime had committed. I went over there and looked, and I pulled a bunch of weeds and stuff that had his blood still on it.
Right.
And I looked in the ground and everything around where he had been shot up, and they went in and repaired everything. There wasn't even no holes in the ground or nothing like that. There's a lot of blood that soaked into the dirt, and I took samples of that, put it away for myself. So at home I have this a bunch of weeds and stuff that had his blood on it and things like that, the Ziploc bags that I keep up in my room.
So you went back to the crime scene and took the blood that from your son, you put it in a bag, some of the weeds, and keep it for sentimental value reasons. Now,
when I got to the crime scene, a bunch of people ran to me, just ran up to me in droves, telling me all kinds of information. Telling me what had happened, what the police said, what had happened to them, and it seemed like a big cover-up that went on there and everything like that. But they said that when the police went around and asked them questions, they said that we don't know nothing. They weren't talking to the police because they didn't like what the police had did. You know, I'm just happy that the 3 or 4 movies was taken of the situation. You know.
Now, did anybody catch this on camera or anything?
Oh yeah, 3 or 4 people took separate cell phone movies of it.
While the actual shooting was going on, or
while the
after it happened?
While the thing was setting up. While the thing was setting up, this one person got in touch with me and told me they saw him throw what appeared to be an old gun out of the car. So he wasn't on it when they got to him, and they went around looking for a gun. You know, after the crime scene was there was somebody. See, they knew my son as carrying BB guns around. There's a man beat him up before with a baseball bat. And this man that beat him with a baseball bat, they tried to make him come out of his clothes. And he wouldn't come out of his underwear, so he got up and ran, and the dude chased him. And well, he ran over to a neighbor's house, and they answered the door with a gun, so he ran from them and went up to the next neighbor's house, and they answered the door and called 911. And the sheriff's department got there. He was black and blue. He was beaten senseless with a baseball bat, and he didn't have nothing but his underwear on, and they didn't even bring him home or take him to the hospital or do nothing for him because he wouldn't cooperate and be a snitch and tell them who did it. See, and he knew that if he told on them, that to kids these days, they don't tell on themselves.
Well, again, this is Reverend Harris. We're in Vallejo, California, and we have one of our brothers here. What was your name again?
Michael Hugh.
Brother Michael Hugh here, and his son was murdered by the Vallejo Police Department. The description was that his body was riddled with bullets. He said at the funeral that he had wiped some of the makeup away off his head. He seen there were bullet holes in his son's head. Also, his shoulder looked like his shoulder was detached from his body. His body says, the father says, seemed like his body, there was plastic that was stapled to the body so that you could not see up underneath the clothes. This is the type of policing that's going on in Vallejo, California. So Mario, Romero, Guy, the different men who has been murdered here in this community, it seems that there's a precedence here of execution style, shoot first, don't even ask questions later. The video footages that we're taking right now is to give a voice to the voiceless, to give hope to the hopeless. Now, we know with common sense that we cannot bring his son back. But we can't change the past, but we can help change the future. And by this father who has taken the time out to speak with me, to expose his story to the world about what has happened, the injustice that has happened to his son, is major. One of the things, again, that I keep saying here in Vallejo, where's the leadership? I have not seen a church, a pastor, step up to even come out and pray, to even come out and support these families who are being traumatized by this government here in Vallejo. And